Do you hate magic and stinky ranged weapons?
Ew!
Well, this is a big bruising build using a mace to the face and a two-handed weapon that generates shields on hit and can stagger enemies and more. Let's go. Let me know any other builds you'd like in the comments down below. So my original plan for this build was using a two-handed weapon as sort of a slow, high-strength bruiser, but a big problem in the Oblivion Remaster with two-handed weapon damage, at least right now, this may change with patches, we don't know, is just straight up how awful and maybe bugged they are. So the big problem with the two-handed weapons is that their animations are very, very slow, and they barely stagger any enemies, and the two-handed damage is overall less than a lot of the one-handed alternatives just for some random reason. So there's never really any benefit to using a two-handed weapon. There are good two-handed weapons, and I'll tell you exactly where you can get this amazing warhammer that paralyzes enemies in a little bit, but we're going to focus mostly on, say, a one-handed blunt weapon and shield build, because with power attacks with a blunt weapon, you can get a temporary shield, which will help you tank some of those hits in the melee range. Plus, with a shield at level 75, once you reach that expert level, you'll be able to shield bash, which will then stagger enemies better than the two-handed weapon will anyway. So it just works out a little better to stick with that one-handed option because of the much smoother animations, faster animations. And we are using Hadred's Heart as the mace here, which is one of the best maces in the game with the good fire damage and the drain speed. Now, I'm not really using any spells here other than like a heal for major wounds and then fortifying health and fatigue, as well as a couple of alternatives. But our magic here is quite low. We're mostly focusing on health and fatigue and sort of tanking and standing our ground and swinging around with the mace and then using the shield to block some damage. But this is really a straightforward build. It doesn't require a lot of complexity. So we'll talk about the race, Birthsign class, and then we'll get into the gear and some tips. So starting with the race, you've got 3 options here, but as always with these, it's just role play. You can play whoever the hell you like, it doesn't matter. But if you want to min-max, the Nord is one of the best options for the 55 strength. The Western Origin is a little better because of the extra endurance there, which is obviously for your HP. And then the Orc is a fantastic option for the 50 strength and the 50 starting endurance. And then going the ऊåBecome Origin for better intelligence and willpower if you want to do a little bit more magic than we are in this build, totally would be worthwhile. And then the Red Guard is another fantastic option for the 55 starting strength and 50 endurance from the Dragon Tail Mountains Origins, or you could go the Desert one, which has a little bit less in those categories. But they're the 3 main ones if you want to go this sort of bruising warrior that mostly focuses on melee. For the Birthsign, you've got the warrior as definitely the most worthwhile option here for the extra endurance and strength being for your damage, endurance for your HP. The Thief though is like always a good option. 10 agility is nothing to sneeze at. That's like for your fatigue here. And then you've got luck, which is always great, and then speed, so you move a little bit faster. Movement speed is quite valuable here so that you can actually get to enemies a little bit faster, so definitely don't sleep on speed. And then Lord is also a solid option if you do want like an extra 15 armor rating and 15 magic resistance. I would pick between those 3. If you want my absolute opinion, I'd probably go the Thief, because agility, luck, especially luck, and speed you can never go wrong with, and you can get your endurance and strength and everything up a little bit easier as well. For your class and your attributes, now for your starting class, a couple of options here being the Warrior, the Barbarian, or the Crusader are all completely fine if you just want to pick one of the class options, but they all have their issues with like the major skills, namely having both blunt and blade weapons, which is a waste, as even with any of the classes, very rarely would you use blunt and blade, and having them both as a major skill is kind of redundant anyway. And because we are focusing on blunt weapons here, we only want that. So definitely would recommend, as always, making a custom class so you can tinker the build to exactly what you prefer. For the specialization, we're obviously focusing on combat for the combat skills. In your attributes, strength and endurance are definitely solid options here. Speed isn't bad, or agility for that extra fatigue as well is also quite solid, but definitely strength needs to be one of them. The major skills, you'd absolutely want to grab blunt, heavy armor, and restoration. The rest is a little bit of personal preference. Now, I think armor here is quite valuable because you will need to repair your gear yourself very regularly, so getting that skill up fast is quite valuable. Mercantile is always a good option here, definitely want to grab block for the blocking that we talked about earlier, and athletics isn't bad, or like literally whatever you can sort of pick. It's just really because this build's quite specific in what we're doing and we're just focusing on that warrior aspect, you've got a lot of flexibility around what major skills that you personally want to pick up. When you're leveling up this build, you do want to focus on leveling your virtues into strength, endurance, and agility as the main ones. A little bit of speed, a little bit of magic if you do want to invest a little bit more magic, but strength and endurance and agility are definitely the three main ones that you do want to focus on. Let's talk about the gear for this build. Now, as always, the random enchanted gear that you find throughout the world is often quite valuable, so you might find stuff that is better. And when you do find that in gear, and if you're enchanting your own gear, like your own weapons and armor, you do want to focus on enchanting for strength or fatigue bonuses and things like that. But I'll give you some more specific, unique items to grab, like the Hadrid's Heart, which is a mace that drains speed and does fire damage. Now, this mace is absolutely fantastic. It's one of the best in the game, and you actually find this mace while finding a Hadrid's Soul bow that's also fantastic, which you can use as well if you do want to use ranged weapons. To find this mace, you'll need to go to the Coral Oblivion Gate, which only unlocks after you have finished the Dagon Shrine main quest. Now, once you've done that, you'll need to follow this pathway that I'm going up to the northwest through the Embers of Hatred. Like this hidden door, and then follow that path. There'll be a couple of gatekeepers. You need to defeat those, grab the keys, go through the two locked doors, find your way to the top, and then you'll be able to find a punished that has the bow, and then on the other side will be the one that has this mace in it as well. Now, the amazing Warhammer we are using that comes with drain health and paralyze for 3 seconds. The great thing about paralyze is it just stops enemies from attacking you, and whatever seconds it is, it's kind of longer because enemies usually hit the ground and they have to like get themselves back up. So Volundrung is a Warhammer that comes from Malakath's shrine north of Anvil. Here, what you'll need to do is bring a troll fat and then interact with the shrine. I do think you need to be level 15 to do this, and then you'll get a quest which will take you to a nearby town. You just need to complete the objective there, which is to free the ogres. There's a couple of ways you can do this, but free the ogres, then go back to the shrine, tell them you've done a good job, and they will give you the Volundrung Warhammer. Armor-wise, I wouldn't say there's anything too specific. Like, you get some solid heavy armor once you finish the main story, but I would recommend to go to Coral and go to the Fire and Steel shop and grab Rashida's special. This will fortify your strength by 5 points and your armor by 5 points. These are just like heavy armor gloves, just perfect to grab because we're using armor, we're using strength, just an easy sort of upgrade. But otherwise, either enchant your gear yourself or the random enchants you'll find will definitely be beneficial. A couple of tips here at the end. Joining the Fighters Guild absolutely is beneficial for this build because you get some good stuff for the Fighters Guild, and it's also good for the role-playing aspects of playing this sort of two-handed warrior that isn't using any magic or any of that other fancy nonsense, really. Bring a lot of repair hammers with you because you will want to get that repair skill up as fast as possible. If you do want to know how to do that, go and check out my leveling up all your skills video, but you want to get that up as fast as possible because you will need to repair your gear very regularly because we're heavily relying on a lot of this martial equipment that does need repairs quite often. Despite my earlier comments about the Warhammer not being great, I have found a good balance in using both of these weapons. Say if I'm in a larger encounter, I want to paralyze enemies to stop multiple from attacking me, using this Warhammer has been great. And then if I just want to wail on enemies and have a bit more protection, then using the shield with the Hadrid's Heart has also been beneficial. Now, make sure you are power attacking by holding down that attack button so you get those shield benefits from that blunt weapon once you have got that blunt skill up high enough. Plus, shield bashing is great for staggering enemies as well once you do get that skill up as well. And the last thing I'll mention is to get the Battlehorn Castle to complete your very fighter roleplay vibes. You can watch my house guide in order to learn how to do that, which I'll link for you right here. But thank you guys for watching this video till the end. Thank you to our members for supporting the channel. My name is NorZZa, and I hope you have a great day.